Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. It is the weekend, and what a better night than to, after all this UFO talk, let's get into some freaking monsters tonight. Bigfoot, Dogman, legends like the Bermuda Triangle. Author George Lunsford is here with a great interview lined up for you. Dirty Filth is here with another crazy cartoon, and we love the dirty one around here. And tonight we have all of you as well, including in the gold medal position, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing the medal. Race fan with a silver, Major Lee with a bronze medal tonight. As we continue on with roll call, we got Christine Lynn, Vanessa, Road Flare, Karen in the Wood Trade. Good to see you all. Hi there, Paramarv. Mel WD40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want that rigidness. The monsters don't like that rigidness, so you need that lube in order to slide into this show nice and smooth. Lulu Bell is here. Lulu Bell will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Amanda Carroll, nice to have you here. Bellenia, my man. Frankie B. Little Timmy James, how you doing, buddy? Kimberly Burgess is here. Kimberly Burgess will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Go easy on her. This will be your first time signing autographs. Deanna Ann, good to have you here. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Richard Minnick, thanks for coming on in. Lee the Bee and Nikki in Seattle, nice to have you both here. Hello there, Pam Harris. Deborah Rooney, how are you? Paulie Rotterman, nice to have you here. Number 23 in your program tonight, starting on defense from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson. Search and Destroy, good to see you. Ethanol, how you doing? Richard Minnick, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very much for your nightly support, Richard. I do greatly appreciate it. Kurt M., thank you for coming on in. Jay Truthseeker, good to have you back. Hi there, Scott's Life. And there's Les Paul Holland strumming away on his custom Gibson guitar right now. The blue one, please. That's my request. The blue one. You know the one. Yeah, I know you're laughing when you say that or smirking or something. Mark Sanchez couldn't decide which Hawaiian shirt to wear, but he's here anyways. Good to have you here, Mark. And Oob to Joe's Maine. He got some aliens this morning. Yes, he did. He sent me pictures. He's got some aliens. Wow. Hopefully, maybe later on in the show, I'll have a chance to actually show those pictures. They're pretty incredible. All right, continuing on here. It's not cold in England, Lulu Bell. It is not cold. You want to come cold? Come to where I am in Canada. You'll get some cold. That's just a little zip on the skin. That's all that is. All right, Cake in a Cup. How you doing? And let's see, who else do we have here? If anybody's watching the fight while this is going on, the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight, please give me updates in the chat room. I would greatly appreciate it, if you don't mind. Erico, how are you? Zaya Bonanza, welcome to SOR Chat. Dragonfly, good to see you as we continue on in roll call. There's Chris. Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's radio and podcast side tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're getting into all sorts of monsters and legends. George Lunsford is here. He's going to be having a new book come out next month, and we're going to have a great time chatting with him. We are in roll call right now. Teen, how are you? Good to have you here as we continue on, and say hello to Javier, the Cryptid 559 guy. He is an awesome, awesome guy. In the studio, Mike Rivers. Science Bob is here. Good old Science Bob. Give us a wave, Science Bob. We'll all wave back. Moving on. Who else do we have here? Let's see here. Scrolling on. Oh, Dirty Filth is here. And Joey Glow, good to see you. Hi, Kathy Evans. I Jedi, good to see you. Resident, thanks for coming on in. I'm scrolling. So we run out of time. I'm scrolling. Look at that. Kimberly's all excited to sign autographs after the show. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and be proud of it. Do me a favor. Throw those horns up, everyone. Let's rock. Mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out the bubble, read the news wire, check out our swing as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help making the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on your website. We have a power show of awesomeness tonight as author, researcher. George Lunsford is going to join us to talk every sort of legend out there, from Sasquatch right to the Bermuda Triangle. We're going to have some fun with him. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will be here for another creepy story, and we'll see what happens. You know what? I want to take your questions tonight. If you're in our chat room in hour 3, I want your questions about this busy week in UFO stories and UFO hearings and everything. You guys have not really had a say in what's going on, so I want to hear what you have to say, and we'll get right to that in hour number 3. We'll see where that goes. All right, let's continue on here, as I'm excited about tonight's guest. I really am. You know, George Lunsford is a multiple published author of Folklore and has done extensive research into cryptid creatures, paranormal, and UFOs. George has had a life unlike most people. He had a paranormal experience in his late teens when his great-grandmother's spirit came to visit him to tell him goodbye. Then, the next day, he found out that she had passed away. George joined the U.S. Navy. He's a great veteran, where he was trained to observe and look for things out of the ordinary. He also had an encounter with a UFO in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean while on watch. The UFO was a dish shape and was observed for around 5 minutes before the object started glowing very brightly and then shot straight into the sky. How many times have we heard that? Well, if we fast forward to George now, he joined a research group called Bigfoot 911, or 911, I should say, and became a certified cryptozoologist. He also created his own research and investigative group called NCI. The group does paranormal, cryptids, and UFO investigations. Hey, they're all around. That's what it's all about. If you want to find any of his books, because they're literally all online on Amazon, on Google. Make sure you check it on out. His website, author George Lunsford x10host.com. Make sure you check that out too. George Lunsford, it's good to have you on Spaced Out Radio for the first, well, not the first time in a couple of years. How you been doing?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you. That's a great introduction. I appreciate that.
Well, you're the one who wrote it. I'm just the one who kind of ad-libbed around. You know
But it
how.
sounded so much better coming from you.
Oh man, you're making the hair stand up on my back, and there's a lot of hair there. So I mean, not really. I'm teasing on that one, but hey, man, I want to say thank you for not only coming on this show, but the work that you do. I mean, so many people are segregated to one topic. You take everything and just run with it. Why did you decide to go that way instead of, say, focusing just on the paranormal or just on cryptids?
Well, I've experienced it all, so it's hard for me to focus on one when I've experienced ghosts, I've experienced UFOs, and I've had experiences with Bigfoot and other cryptids like Dogman. So it's hard to stay with one thing, and I'm not disciplined enough to stay with one. I want to know it all.
Here's one of the things that I see a lot of people criticize about. Not to get negative right off the bat, but I'm a multiple experiencer myself. I've had paranormal encounters, I've had Bigfoot encounters, I've had UFO and alien encounters, and some other high strangeness that has happened in my life. And the one critique when people hear me speak, if they've never heard me speak before, when I've been interviewed on other shows or spoken at conferences, is, oh, this guy's full of it. There's no way one person has experienced everything. I mean, this guy, blinks in the wind and all of a sudden there's a ghost there. I mean, I've heard it all, and I'm sure you have too. There's not a lot of multiple experiencers out there, yet here we are. I'm one, you're one.
Yep.
How does that differ, or how do you handle the criticism and the critique where people say there's no way all of these different things happen to you, George?
Well, after most people hear my story, they kind of look at me and go, there's something not right about you. And I have to agree with them. There's something not normal about me, because once you've experienced one thing, it seems like everything else comes to you regardless. And once your eyes are open, then you can't shut them back. So we've opened our eyes up to a bigger world, and we see what's really out there now, where most people live in a bubble and in a tunnel vision. So I don't really pay much attention to what people say, because you're like me, you're of the generation. We just don't really care what people think.
You know what? It's funny because it's funny you say that, because I've always been somebody, what will other people think? Like, I always cared about other people's opinion. And at about, I'm going to say about a month and a half ago now, I'm very proud to say it. I say it loudly. I suffer from depression and anxiety. And not that I'm proud to suffer from that, but I say it out loud because I know that there are people listening. I don't care what gender you are, but there are people listening who are like, you know what? I don't want to say anything about how I'm feeling. I don't want to open up. So I'm very open to say, you know what? It's cool to talk about. And I went through a real active depression a few weeks ago. And I came out of that, and all of a sudden my whole new outlook is, I don't care anymore. It's like the Phil Collins song. I don't care anymore, because I can't please everybody. And it took me 51 years to finally figure that out. But you're right. It doesn't matter what people think. You've experienced what you've experienced. The only thing that you can do is tell your story. And if people choose not to believe that, or think you're doing it for book sales or clickbait, then they don't really know the person you are. Right, George?
Exactly. I've been talking about this stuff since I was a young kid. I talked about Bigfoot. What got me started on Bigfoot was the Legend of Boggy Creek. That's when I started reading books on Bigfoot, and I haven't stopped since. But I've always been that kid that Okay, you can think what you want, but I know what I've seen. I don't lie. Everybody knows that knows me knows I don't lie. And I've always just been confident enough to know that I'm not worried about what your opinion is. This is what the deal is. And I guess it's just stuck with me all these years because I was like that in the military. I was like that when I was young. I was even the same way.
What is your story? How did this begin?
Well, I guess the Bigfoot stuff started after the movie Legend of Boggy Creek back in the 70s, and I got hooked on reading about Bigfoot and all like legend. Let's see, Bigfoot and Loch Ness monster and all the old cryptids. You know, you grew up hearing about before the new ones come along, like Dogman and the Chupacabra and all that. Well, I was already into all that stuff before it ever got here. And as I got older, I opened my mind up more. And then, I was in my teens when my grandmother appeared to me, my great grandmother, and that just pulled it open that much more. So I was open to that much more of what was actually happening around me where most people weren't. And then in the military, we seen the UFO, and it wasn't seen by just me, but nobody else wants to talk about it because they're afraid of somebody might call them a liar or somebody might tell them they're crazy or something. To me, everybody knows I'm crazy, so I don't have to worry about that because I've always been crazy. But after seeing those things, and then in my 20s, I died for a short period of time, and then come back out of that. So nothing really bothers me anymore as far as what people say or anything else, because I've already died. I know what's out there. I know what's in space because I've already seen some of that. I passed that veil, and I was able to actually speak with ghosts for a short period of time and see them pop up all over the place and all kinds of things. So I really just don't worry about things anymore.
What was your first Bigfoot encounter like?
My first one was awesome, and we was on a Bigfoot hunt. We was in East Tennessee, and when we first got to the research area, we started finding twist breaks. We started finding arches. As we searched around, we found where they was breaking walnuts open and eating the nuts out of them. We found ambush sites. They had an ambush site, would have been the envy of any hunter out there. It was awesome. The Bigfoot had actually took logs, stood them up, and built a ambush site where 3 game trails come together. So at night when they hunt, he could just sit there in that, as the deer or hogs or whatever come by, all he had to do is reach out and grab them, snap a neck, and he had food. It was a great. I mean, I got into the ambush blind that they built, and I reached up, touched the top. I could barely touch it. I'm 6 foot tall, so I could barely touch the top, and I had to reach my arms out to touch the sides of this thing. That's how big it was. And we was moving through. We found a big Dogman track about that big, and we went through and was coming back. And one of my buddies that was with me, his name's Harley. He punched me. He said, "Hey, let's go down this flat. We'll go down the hill and come up on this other hill over here. Maybe we'll find some more tracks." So me and him dropped down, and our other buddy and his wife went down the trail. We come up on the hill, and Harley punches me. He goes, "There it is." I said, "Harley, that's a shadow." He said, "No, man, seriously, that's it." I said, "Harley, that's a shadow." It was overcast and snowy. He said, "No, I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna go down this little valley because we was on a hill and the shadow was on this hill, 20 yards away. There's a little valley with a thicket there. And Harley started down in there. And when he did, he got about 14 foot ahead of me. And he stepped on a piece of stick and it snapped real loud. Well, the shadow reached its arm up and grabbed the tree and leaned out to see where he was at. And then when he stood up, I seen exactly where his head was on the tree. And I got excited and took off after him. I passed Harley. I come down the hill, past him. We come up on the side, of course. Alfalfa didn't wait. We call him Alfalfa because he had hair sticking up in the top of his head. He was jet black, had no neck, all his shoulders come up like this to the side of his head. He had a conical head. He is huge. He had to be 3.5, 4 foot wide through the shoulders. 8.5 feet high because I measured it, where his head was to the ground. We found 3 perfect toe prints. The 3 middle toes of his foot. We found a little bit of a toe print from the big toe and a little bit of a toe print from the small toe, but the 3 in the middle was perfect. So we took off because where he was at, he was in a tunnel. So it was thickets on this side, 2 trees and a thicket, and at the end of this 20-foot tunnel, he could drop off to the left or to the right. So we took off down this tunnel. We got down almost to the end, and our radio goes off, and our buddy Robert calls up, "What are you guys doing? Something's tearing the woods up." And all of a sudden it stopped just like that. So we dropped off the left side of the hill, started fighting our way through this real thick thicket, and we lost him. So what we figured is he probably saw Robert and stopped and then eased on the back side of the hill. When we come off left, he went to the right side of the hill.
How did you feel about being that close? For
Oh, I
people who
loved
may
it.
not understand what it's like to be up close and personal with one of these mammoth creatures, tell me what was going through your mind.
I wanted to get closer. I wanted to get where I could prove that their existence with a camera. And I got so excited I couldn't stand myself when I took off after him. I don't have the fear of the Bigfoot as much as I do like a Dogman. I know these creatures could rip me in half and not think twice about it. But for some reason, that fear is not, hasn't manifested itself in me yet at all.
Do you think then, when you have that encounter, that it sticks with you, not as trauma, but as a memory that you just can't get out of your mind?
Yeah. I think about it all the time. And what I would have done if he would have been there when I come up that hill. Because I have different scenarios constantly run through my mind what would have happened. I don't know. I will find out one day.
You mentioned there was Dogman in that area too. What's the
Yes.
difference between a Dogman print and a wolf print?
Dogman's bigger. The 3 toes are more pronounced than the 4th toe is. And if you look at like a werewolf print compared to a Dogman print, now werewolf print is longer than a Dogman is. But a Dogman have been around since around, the earliest I found is around 400 BC. And there used to be tribes of them all over the world. And they believe Anubis actually came from the tribe that was in Africa that was wiped out with disease. A tribe in Africa was wiped out by disease after Anubis already left. But there was a tribe in India that was written about by Christopher Columbus and Marco Polo. Both wrote about this tribe that they were taken to. And even during the Saint Wars, one of the saints actually had 2 Dogmen as personal bodyguards. And in the early depictions of was it Saint Christopher? I think that's who it was. He was depicted as a dog man. He was 7 foot high.
Interesting. I mean, the fact that I've never seen a Dogman. I'm just going to start it off with that. I've never seen a Dogman. I know they're in my area. I know where they're located. I do not go looking for them. Something about them just scares the living daylights out of me. Now, you mentioned there is a difference there between Sasquatch and Dogman fear-wise. What is that?
Well, dogmen have always been known to be aggressive. Bigfoot hasn't always been known to be aggressive. Usually the only time I've ever heard of really, I've heard stories about Bigfoot attacking people, don't get me wrong. But usually it's in a situation where he's cornered, he's angry, or he's hungry. One of those three things is usually happens if a Bigfoot hurts someone. Dogmen just don't care. They're like the irritated next door neighbor. They growl and grunt, and they'll even go after you if you mess with them. But I still want to go check. I still want to get close to them and find out.
Not me, man. Not me. There's just something really scary about them. They just don't seem to give a care.
No,
that's
they
what
don't.
bugs me about them. Is they just don't seem to care about what they are, who they're around, and if they have to get a little rough and rumble. They just don't seem to care. And that's part of the issue that I have with these, because how do you put it? I mean, they're just not very pleasant.
They're not neighborly. Well, the thing about the Dogman, I think that intrigued me most of all, they're like the Hulk. They're always angry. And if you look back at the history of the Dogman and how their tribes were destroyed by humans, humans are the ones that brought the diseases into their tribes. They used them for mercenaries and different things, even bodyguards and else. So they were actually treated by humans so bad before they just dissipated out into the world. So I think that's why they're always angry. I think that knowledge is basically been handed down from one to another, and they're just constantly mad at humans.
Have you ever had a run-in with them?
I've been growled at them. Growled at by them. I've seen their tracks, and we've actually were pushing one during one of the investigations. We were right behind him. He was no more than 15 minutes ahead of us because we found a fresh track where he had hit the mud and slid. And the water was coming from the mud, was coming back into the print when we got there. So we was pushing him down the trail. Now you got to remember, when I go Bigfoot hunting and stuff, I go armed. Yeah. I'm not like a lot of these. I'm not the TV show Bigfoot investigator. Okay. When we go into the woods, we know there's dangers in the woods. You got Dogman, you got Bigfoot, you got bears, you got wolves, you got coyotes, you got snakes, everything else. And I'm an old squid. I don't like being unarmed. So when I go in the woods, I'm armed to protect myself and my team.
See, that's one thing I'm glad that we don't have here is snakes. I hate snakes.
Me too. Terribly bad.
Hate snakes. They just I just get that gross chill when I even think about snakes. But we go in on our side too. We go in armed as well.
But it's if you don't, something wrong, because you got to protect yourself. Period.
Well, the one thing we do a little bit differently though is we, and whether it works or not, I have no idea, but we actually will say out loud when we get there that we are armed. And, but big, to our Sasquatch friends, this isn't for you. This is for any other apex predator that is looking at us as food. That's the way we do it. George, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Author, researcher, George Lunsford is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and we're looking forward to him joining us for another 90 minutes on the show. We'll be right back, everybody. All right, we are clear. There we go.
That guy who wrote, he liked the Mothman. The Mothman's cool. Mothman is interesting.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. We will get into that, yeah, as well.
I love it all. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be an illness. It's an interesting drawing going on there.
That's Dirty Filth. We'll bring him up here. He always is good for a thumbs up, professional thumbs upper.
Oh, that's
Right,
cool.
Dirty? I know you're listening, Dirty. I know you're concentrating, but give us a thumbs up. Oh.
Hi, Dave.
We just wanted a thumbs up.
I know, but I had to say that I was going to draw some birds today.
Very nice.
That's about as much as I can tell you.
No, Richard Minnick, Dave don't need any rubber snakes. Actually, rubber snakes don't bug me. It's real snakes that bug me.
Yeah.
Hi, Mind. How you doing?
Dave doesn't like sharks, and one time I mailed him a plushie shark.
Oh, yeah. Sharks, no. Sharks are absolutely no. Dave don't like the sharks.
I don't mind washing them in the water as long as I ain't in the water with them.
Exactly my point. There is no point whatsoever.
I've seen thousands of hammerheads all together in the water for just as far as you could see.
That's probably where they would make somebody walk the plank.
I thought about throwing my chief in at that time. I didn't want to poison the sharks, so.
Good thing sharks don't have legs and can't make their way onto land and, spend about, like alligator type sharks where they can kind of go on land for a bit.
That'd be a good book.
Dave's just having a stroke thinking about it.
No, not a stroke, but I will definitely say that
It's change of shorts.
No, I haven't had to change the shorts yet.
This is interesting. I'm watching you draw this. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, so.
Well, I'm pretty good at drawing cartoons. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
Cut you off.
Welcome to SOR chat. Sorry, Filthy, for cutting you off like that. That was rude of me.
We're a bunch of sorry Canadians over here.
Mm-hmm. It's the way we do things.
As long as you have
I'm
fun.
sorry. Sorry for being sorry.
Yeah. Phyllis Boucher Perry has arrived, Dirty Filth. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? We got about a minute and a half, George.
Okay.
Trust me, George, it's going to look excelente when it's all done.
I have no doubt whatsoever. I look forward to seeing the end product.
I have got a weird question. Do you have a relative named Steve?
Me?
Steven? Yeah.
I had one. He's dead.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not the guy I was thinking about. It was my favorite author. He's actually has the same last name as you,
Oh, okay.
but he goes by Steven Erickson. So
And then there's
I
a
was
big
just
hunter
wondering.
in Texas named Williams Lunsford.
There's a lot of Lunsfords because the only thing my
William.
ancestors knew how to do was fight and mate. So,
Those are pretty good fast times.
well, the one that come here that started the whole thing in the United States was named Sir William Lunsford, and he was known otherwise as the Baby Eater. He was the leader
Gruesome.
of the foot soldiers for Charles the First.
All right, gents, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to come back in about 10 seconds here. Thank you to Richard Times 2 for the super chats. Greatly appreciate it. And here we go, everyone, the second half hour. Here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us as we talk monsters. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this interesting conversation. As we want to remind you that if you've seen portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's author, researcher George Lunsford joining us as we're talking monsters all night long. And George, thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
You love the Mothman.
I do love the Mothman because it translates over also into the Blackbird of Chernobyl. When the sighting right before Chernobyl went super green and burned everything up, there were sightings of what they called the Blackbird of Chernobyl, which was the exact description of Mothman.
What really intrigues you about Mothman? Do you think this one's real?
I think Mothman is basically a herald of disaster because everybody that sees him soon after something bad happens. So I don't know. There was word that someone seen him right before 9/11 happened at the towers. There were stories about people seeing him in an airplane before they crashed. I mean, just different things that I've read about creatures that fit that description, and it's always the same. Looks like a big Mothman with red eyes, and it just amazes to me that he knows these things are going to happen before they happen.
Why do you think he's such a harbinger of death?
I don't know. Other than the mass destruction that always happens after he's seen, the only time that I haven't read of anything bad happening was when he was seen in Chicago. He was seen at O'Hare Airport, but nothing happened. So I don't know if he made a boo-boo or if it was something was corrected that was unforeseen by him.
Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com has done a lot of research on the Chicago Mothman sightings. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to ever talk to Lon about it because his research is absolutely impeccable on it. But these sightings, apparently, according to Lon, are happening a lot more than we actually know of. And do you think then, because these sightings of Mothman in the Chicago area have been going on for a number of years, but we haven't seen that destruction of the Silver Bridge or anything other that's been terminal?
It could just be it ain't happened yet. It could be that something bad's going to happen, but it just haven't happened yet. And that's really all I can attribute to it, because what I've studied about Mothman was not as in depth as the gentleman you just talked about. Because I would love to read his research and talk to him. I haven't talked to him,
Oh,
but
you should.
what research I've done has been, and amongst other research, I've just made the connections as I went along.
For people who may not know the story of the Mothman, fill us in.
Mothman was first seen by, I believe it was it railroad workers or mine workers or something up in West Virginia, and then he was seen by a couple of different couples that were making out by the ammo dumps. And after that, he was seen on top of the Silver Line Bridge, and then the Silver Line Bridge collapsed. After that, apparently he was seen over in Chernobyl right before the meltdown. There's been, like I said, stories of him being seen other places that there was other disasters. And that's really about as quick a description as I can give of his story. I know he stayed by a car that was running 100 miles an hour. So, he flies pretty quick.
The creature is always the same. 7 to 8 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Describe it for us.
7 to 8 feet tall. And the best way to describe it, from what all the descriptions that's been put together and said, is he looks like a giant moth with a human's body, with the way the wings are shaped and the dark with no neck, the head, the body building together like a moth. He has the big, bright red eyes that are supposedly causes you to get sick, or it messes up your equilibrium or something when you look into his eyes. But everybody that looks into his eyes gets sick, from everything I've read. And
there have been people who have had multiple sightings of this creature. Do you think that that means that they are now in danger as well?
No, I think that they were just lucky to get to see him. I think that he only goes to areas that are going to be destroyed or have something bad happen. I don't think it has to do with the individual people. I could be wrong, because like I said, there's no such thing as an expert when it comes to cryptid creatures.
When you look at this creature, which has been sighted now for almost 60 years, it comes and goes. It's been seen in Indiana. It's been seen in Wisconsin, Illinois, around Chicago, of course, Ohio with the original sighting. What do you think this creature is doing staying in that eastern central part of the United States?
I don't know. I really don't. Unless it made its home in those old ammo dumps up there in West Virginia, I don't know. Unless it knows something we don't know. I mean, that thing may have a lifespan of 150 years. So, I mean, who knows?
What is your theory on everything?
I just feel like it knows when there's going to be a major disaster, and I think it kind of shows up as a warning, so people don't. There's not as much of a loss of life, because there's actually a warning, a physical warning there to show, look, there's something going to happen here. Be on your toes. I don't think it's evil. I really, truly don't. I think it's simply here to be a warning signal for everyone, because it's never attacked anybody that we know of.
Does that make Dogman a more dangerous creature than what we see here with Mothman?
I think it makes I think Dogman is a very dangerous creature. Like I said, I think it's because it has held a grudge because of its ancestors being wiped out by humans, and I think it's that grudge is built into the creature now. I mean, when it first moved into places like the LBL, you had Bigfoot and Dogman fighting against each other. There's tons and tons of stories and information about where the Bigfoot Dogman war up there, where Bigfoot owned half of it and the LBL, and Dogman had the other part, and they fought and fought and fought, and finally they started working together. There's reports of seeing Bigfoot and Dogman together working as a team.
I haven't heard that. How would they work as a team together?
I don't know. It's almost like the Bigfoot have developed this using the Dogmen for almost like hunting dogs, because I've read 3 or 4 stories so far where they had seen the Bigfoot, and when they got away, it's like the Bigfoot sent the Dogmen to follow them out of where they were at, and it seems like when the Dogmen get out of line, they correct them. But I mean, apparently, I'm also reading new stories now of the LBL that there's a new creature showed up there that's related to the Dogman. It's a werewolf, and the werewolf is a different species. It's I think it's a hybrid of the Dogman.
For people who don't know the legend of the LBL, why is this important, this story, to the cryptid world?
Well, it shows you that these creatures eventually will either wipe each other out or wipe one species out, or they'll start working together for a different good for themselves. Now, we run into this in East Tennessee too. For what we seen what looked like where they had used the Dogman to run the deer into traps where they would grab the deer, catch the deer to eat them. And almost like they had the Dogmen watching over their little ones to stop anybody from bothering them.
Tell us about what the LBL is and what happened there.
It's the land between the lakes. It's up in Kentucky, and all this started. I really don't even know the full history of it, to be honest with you. But there's tons and tons of stories up there. Best I can tell you is go to Martin Graves, and he's the man all about LBL. He knows everything there is to know about that place up there.
LBL standing for Land Between the Lakes.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Graves knows it like the back of his hand from what I've seen.
Now, if I'm correct, a family was murdered there, believed to be by a group of dogmen, correct?
Yes.
What do you know about that?
Not a lot. I haven't done enough study about that part of it. I have friends that go up there and do research and stuff. The reason I know what little bit I do. There's been reports of people actually seeing the Dogman. Like there was a report from one guy I heard. He was in a boat coming in to dock, and he was being paralleled on the shore by a dogman. It was running beside the boat on the land, waiting for him to get close enough where it could jump into the boat. And before it did, he was able to turn and go back out. There's stories of campers that waking up and their tents being shredded and being pulled out. There's been disappearances up there, but there for a while, when I was getting the stories about them working together with the Bigfoot, the murders were slowing down or stopping. It's like the Bigfoot wouldn't let them kill people anymore. But it's apparently, from the latest stuff I've heard, it's starting to get bad again, and the government's about to take over that property up there and stop people from going in.
See, that's why I don't like this creature. That's why I don't want to have a run-in with one. That's why I don't want to be around one, because they're just so unpredictable.
True, but we've got to get information on these creatures, or we're not going to know how to handle them. If we don't find out exactly what's going on with them, then we're looking at a creature that, if we do end up having to face off with it, we're not going to have enough information to be able to stop it or, correct the problems. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take somebody learning more about the Dogman. I've learned a lot, but nowhere near enough for myself. I want to know everything, because if it happens to be, you're looking at a population that's growing, and they're growing quick. There's been more reports of Dogmen now than there ever has been before.
Well,
so we're going to have to be able to do something with them.
Well, the one thing that I've noticed about this creature is, if you think back to the first reports of the Beast of Bray Road by Linda Godfrey, God bless her soul, that's when it came out in Wisconsin. Dogman was originally just in Wisconsin, or thought to be just in Wisconsin and Michigan. And now we're seeing these creatures being seen in almost every state of the lower 48, every province in Canada, down into Mexico. This creature, it's either breeding like rabbits, or it is being dropped off by aliens, or just really deciding to expand its own personal territories.
I think it's looking to expand its territories. Plus, they're breeding unchecked. And if I'm right about the werewolves, if they're them being a hybrid of them, a lot of times the werewolves could be mistaken as Dogmen. And we won't get into my whole thought about the werewolf, but this creature is even worse than the Dogmen are.
Okay, so what is the difference between a werewolf and a Dogman?
Well, if I'm right, and the werewolf is a hybrid, the werewolf, I believe, is a genetic experiment gone wrong. They've taken a Dogman and a wolf, and they've genetically combined it. So you're getting the power and the strength of the Dogman, which is more than a regular wolf, but then you're getting the intelligence of a wolf, because wolves are very intelligent, very smart creatures. So you're getting the intelligence and everything, but they're not controllable. And because they're not controllable, they got out just like the monkeys down in South Carolina did. Have you heard about the monkeys in South Carolina?
Yes.
Yeah,
heard about that recently.
I think the werewolves are more of a genetic experiment gone wrong. And I think they're breeding out now with the Dogman, which is causing them to be even more aggressive.
Do you think then that these creatures are, like many people believe, maybe a supernatural hybrid type of creature that maybe dropped off with a connection to aliens or some other fantastical beginning?
It's possible. I personally don't think that, but we don't know. That's the whole thing, is until somebody like, me or my guys, or, other groups go out there and we start investigating these creatures and start getting the information about them, nobody's going to know. And that's one reason I'm so wound up about this, because I don't want just my group, but I want everybody to stay safe. But I don't want just my group out there looking for them. I want all the groups investigating everything, because if we don't investigate this stuff and it gets to a point where we have to fight it, if we don't know what we're fighting, we're in trouble, because we're talking about creatures that are extremely fast, extremely aggressive. I've seen where Dogmen have clawed the trees. A bear ain't got nothing on them, because the bear will come down with the grain of the tree, where Dogman comes across the ground of the tree and is deeper. And and if they're breeding that fast or they're genetically being modified, then we got some trouble coming to us.
What would that trouble be?
That trouble would be a large army-like number of creatures deciding to take back over the land that they felt was theirs.
Is it theirs though? If they just continue on to take over.
Well, if we can't stop them and we don't know enough about them, then there's when you have to start bringing the military in to stop something like that, you're on the losing side of it, especially with their speed and strength.
So many people, George, over the years claim to have shot at this creature and hit it with very, strong bullets, whether it's from an AR-15 or whether it's from slugs from a 12 gauge shotgun. And this creature doesn't even seem to flinch. What creature on this planet does not flinch to a high-powered rifle or even a carry rifle or a semi-automatic machine gun or a shotgun?
Well, I'd have to see that to believe it. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying they're lying, but I want to see the proof of that myself, because what I've seen about them, they're just a physical creature. They're a physical creature. I can kill it.
See, I'm not sure about that, George.
Every creature has a weakness. Doesn't matter what it is.
I get that. I just don't. You know what? When you say it's a physical creature, I believe that. I just don't know if it's flesh and blood.
Okay.
It's my same theory on Bigfoot. I don't know what it is. I've seen it. I've encountered it. I have seen the pixelation in the behind a tree or beside a tree, and then been roared at right afterwards. Like First Nations people believe that or many people believe that it's a Glimmerman type of thing that can morph into Sasquatch. I've seen that. I just don't know if there are multiple breeds of these things, like a dog or a cat, or if there is one major breed and it has supernatural ability.
I don't know. Till we get more research, we're not going to know. That's the whole thing. That's why it's important for people who are researching to get their facts together when they go out there, and try to ignore what you've heard, and document what you find.
Well, I get that and agree with that, but the problem is most of the researchers out here, George, when they go out in the forest, they already have a preconceived notion. And, they think because there's a footprint, a scat print, a handprint, hair samples, that automatically leads to flesh and blood. And you can't change their mind on that.
Well, I did notice on one of the hair samples that one of our guys has, that it's actually has multiple colors in the hair. Like you'll have like a brown section, then you'll have a translucent section, and then maybe another like a gray section. And I think that's where you're getting a lot of what you're saying, the sparkly stuff. That could be when you're getting like the pixelation stuff. That's when they're able to shift the hair around and deflect the sun, makes it look like like a camouflage technique that they can do. You can follow a bear in the woods and he'll eventually turn a certain position or he'll move down a certain way and you won't be able to see him. Same way with a moose or deer, or a lot of the creatures are able to turn themselves and create their own shadow where they'll be able to move around the right angle behind a tree where you can't see them anymore. Like I've been out deer hunting and seen deer turn away and go uphill and you don't realize that they turn. You see them go behind the tree this way, and you're waiting for them to come out over here. But what they've done is they've either curled back on you or they've gone up a hill, and you think, well, where'd the deer go? You know.
George, on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Hard to believe we're already through 1 hour of tonight's show with author and researcher George Lunsford. You can find any of his books at any major online bookstore. Go check it on out. We'll be right back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, George, we're going to turn things over to Dirty Filth here.
I love it.
Yeah, he's doing well. I'll be right back, guys.
I like that.
Guess I should unmute myself here.
I like that.
Anyway.
Oh, that's good.
I was saying Dave's letting the Dogman out for a pee right now. But usually on Fridays I'm out doing life drawing classes. So not
cool.
today. So yes, here we go. We got so I was watching the Skinwalker Ranch episode, and they had some birds that got. Apparently, one of the birds was crushed when it was flying somewhere on the ranch. So we got these birds, and here's Spanky here. Hold on, let me zoom in a little more here with my crusty old arm here, my boom arm that I need to replace because it's broken because the cats keep jumping on it. I'm shaking my fist at them too, by the way. Anyways, like another time at Skinwalker Ranch. It's like, hey Larry, what the heck happened? I flew over the ranch. I'll be okay. And he's all mangled up and busted and everything.
That's man. I am amazed that you can take and just whip that out like it's no big deal. Like I said, I can't draw, but I love the fact that when people can, I love watching them draw. That's so cool.
I just got a couple more details to fill in here, the old borders and junk, but I go read things and then I basically filter the world through my eyes as a cartoon, and that's how everything ends up. That's what this is.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
And so each of my characters, they all have their own little speech balloons and everything. I was like showing this off. So I got like ghosts and aliens and junk. They all have Sasquatch cool. And everything. Just so, and the thing about it is if a alien or a cryptid or something's trying to wear a disguise, the speech balloon gives them away. Nobody else does that. Market corner on that. Anybody that wants to do that, go for it. I encourage anybody to pursue their artistic abilities. But yeah, I just love it. I mean, so I don't know. I read stuff on the internet and I watch films and junk, and I always get ideas for cartoons. And
we should get you to do our comic book.
I'm always open for collaborations here. What's the date today? 15th, I believe. Yes, because 16th is tomorrow. We're rolling dice with all the nerds tomorrow.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Was it D&D?
It's based off D&D. It's a heavily homebrewed thing at this point in time.
Oh, that's cool.
I've had the same group for about 14 years, so I'm pretty lucky on that.
And ain't nothing wrong with that. That's good to have friends that long.
Yeah, the missus plays with us, and my pal from work, and two of my oldest buddies ever. Watson, if you're listening, I'm gonna punish your character tomorrow. Anyways, we got a group chat going. He's being rowdy right now, so he's probably watching the show as well. But anyways, let's see here. Oh, and for anybody listening, if you're interested, you can go to Etsy.com and just type in Filthy. you can collect my calendar for yourself. Get one for your mom, one for your mom. And if you also want to just go to my website, all the links are there. It's filthy.com, FYLTHY.com. They also work good as a birdcage liner. There we go. See, look at that. It looks way better once the... There you go. Hold on, let me get my little booster seat here for my drawings. It's just a mess. My entire studio is just full of drawings. All types of other madness. Look at that.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
At Skinwalker Ranch. Look at that bird's all busted up. It's like foghorn leghorn after he tried to scrap a kangaroo or something.
That's cool. Did a good job.
Thank you, sir. All right. I got to go feed the cats. Love you, Dave.
Make sure you give Blob a nice pet for us, if you don't mind.
I'll send you an update in about 2 minutes here, Dave.
All right. Hey, from all of us, make sure she gets an extra treat.
Of course, always. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, Dirty Filth. Dirty Filth, everybody. Filthy.com. He is the best. He really is.
Does a good job.
Yes, he does. He does incredible. All right. High Necessary Dialogue. How you doing? And thank you to Richard with a hat trick of super chats. Search and Destroy as well. Thank you for the love. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. You know, there is still people out there who every now and again I get a comment from somebody who actually bitches and complains about Dirty Filth's drawings, saying, what the hell is that guy doing here? What does that have to do with the show? Just enjoy, man. Just enjoy.
He's amazing. And he's quick.
Here we go. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. You're the audience who loves these weird, strange topics. And we're about to continue it here in hour 2 of tonight's show with George Lunsford. Hi, everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Dogman. Dogman is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Actually, the password, the real password, is Dacnomania. Dacnomania. Use that one. It'll get you in. The other one won't. So make sure you check it out now. George Lunsford is here. This guy chases Bigfoot. He chases Dogman, Mothman, Chupacabras, UFOs, aliens, ghosts. He's an author. You can find all of his books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anything online. You can find him there. George, thank you for being here with us. You got a brand new book coming out here very soon.
Yes, sir, I do. It comes out, I think the pre-sale is going to be in December 1st. It's called Legends, Myths, Monsters, and Ghosts, the North American edition. I actually have stories from Canada, America, Mexico, Central America, Caribbean islands, and Greenland.
Wow. Wow. How do you get these stories? How do you get these collections?
I had to do all my research online usually because I can't afford to go everywhere like I'd like to. But I have a couple of friends up in Canada, and they sent me a couple of ideas for some stories. And then I just started looking things up and going from there with it. And now I don't do a lot of changing to the stories unless there's variations. If I find a story like, I don't know, like the Wendigo, I won't change the story itself. I'll tell the story like what I find out about it. And if there's any variations, I'll usually include the variations of the story into what I put on paper.
How do you know these stories that you're collecting are real? How do you know that somebody's telling you the truth?
Well, usually when you read it, you can either tell if it's a bunch of bull, it's fake, or if it's actually a story that had been passed down. When I was growing up, the reason I did these books is because when I was growing up, the older people would pass down stories to us. And we'd listen to the stories, or we'd either go do something about it, like go investigate it, or we would just, enjoy the story one way or another. And that's what I want to pass on to everybody else. I want people to read the books, saying you're in Canada, and you read a couple of stories in Canada. I want you to go, that sounds interesting. I think I'm going to go check that out. And go check it out. And see if it's real. See if it's something that has been passed down, or see if it's just a bunch of a fun story to listen to. But I want to pass these out to everyone around that I can, so that they can do the same things I did as a kid. We got told a story here in Asheville about Helen's Bridge. Okay, Helen was a woman who was her husband got killed during the war, so her and her daughter was living on the property of this big mansion up on the mountain over here. And the big mansion was on this side, and you go across the bridge, and there was her little house with her daughter lived on the other side. And one day, apparently, she was off from work, and she was at home, and her daughter was in the house playing. And it was a little 2-story shack, nothing fancy, nothing big. She worked for the people in the mansion. And she was down there working, and she put some stuff on the stove, and her daughter was upstairs playing, and she put some stuff on the stove. She walked outside, and she was hanging the laundry up. Well, while she was hanging the laundry up, something on the stove boiled over and caught the house on fire. So she tried to get back in to get to her daughter, but the fire was so bad she couldn't get in. And the men run down from the mansion across the bridge down there to help her, trying to get in there. And finally, the fire department showed up, and the last thing that Helen seen was her daughter's hand on the window, as bloody as it slid down the window. That was the last thing she seen of her daughter. Well, she was distraught. She couldn't be consoled. She was very, very upset. Her house was gone. Everything she owned was gone. Her daughter had been killed, all because she had made a mistake and left something on the stove that kicked over and burned the house down. So, trying to get her to calm down, they took her back up to the mansion, and they were trying to console her and trying to calm her down and everything else. And she went to sleep, they thought. So everybody else, went to sleep. Well, she got up and she walked back down to the house, and she was looking around the house, and she seen a rope laying there, and she looked at the bridge, and she took the rope, she tied it on one side of the bridge, tied the other side around her neck, and jumped off the bridge and hung herself. Well, because of it being such a traumatic thing that happened, her spirit can't rest, and her daughter's spirit can't rest. So when you go up there at night, and you call for Helen, there's orb shows up, and you can even get a full body apparition of Helen. What you don't want to get is the fireball from her daughter. And I know this because we made Helen mad when we was up there. And when I was younger, we was up there in a Volkswagen Bug my buddy had, and we was aggravating and playing with our luck with Helen, and she got to us pretty good. We jumped in the car, took off, and this fireball about the size of a basketball come behind the Volkswagen. We was trying to get down the mountain away from it, and all of a sudden it went boom, hit the back of the car. Well, we made it down there. He skidded and almost wrecked, but we got down to the bottom of the hill, and we got down there. Now, this is the truth. We walked back to the back of the car, the back of the Volkswagen. There was a handprint burnt into the small handprint burnt into the paint of the car on the back. And he took it home. He pulled that piece off. He sanded it down, repainted it. Next day, the handprint was back again. That's no joke. I've seen it myself.
That would be absolutely terrifying. Terrifying. Oh my goodness.
This
I
is
don't
my
know
life.
if I could handle that.
Huh?
I don't know if I could handle that.
I can tell you something even more terrifying than that. There was a young couple got married. Now this happened to me. The first part didn't, but the second part did. The first part was this young couple supposedly got married over here, and they were going off for a honeymoon. They took a dirt road that we all used to take all the time, going from one county to the next. Well, it was raining. They ran off the road, and the man and the woman got killed. Their car was, destroyed. Well, we were crossing that road one night, and as we come down through there's 4 guys in the vehicle, the truck, and it was a car. I'm sorry, it was a car. We come around the corner, and we seen a woman standing there in a wedding dress. And she's all upset. Now, we thought this was all, the real deal. So we stopped, and she was pointing and she was crying. So we all took off down the hill to find out what was going on. We thought maybe her car went down there. We get down there and there was nothing there. We come back and she was gone. But when we got back into the car, there was a piece of wedding dress this big laying on the seat.
That's just creepy.
That still gives me chills.
Yeah, I can see why.
This is stuff that's been happening to me all my life. So,
When you're dealing with ghosts compared to cryptids, what's the difference in your investigation technique and the way you handle situations?
Well, honestly, ghost, a lot of times people are mistaken natural phenomenon for ghost. Like we did one investigation, and usually if it's a ghost, you feel something when you walk in. You'll feel an uneasiness. You'll feel something when you walk into wherever this is supposed to be haunted. And now we should have felt something in this place, because when we went into the property, the person they said that was haunting it had been killed there. It was been murdered. So we went in to inspect stuff. We took some equipment with us, and we had the EVP going. We had what do you call it? The magnetometer. We had different things there to check and see if there's any kind of a shift in the magnetic field, if there's any energy there or whatever. And what they said was happening was that things would move on the shelf and they would hear stuff. Well, we got in there checking, and come to find out, the place we were at was on a big slab of granite, and there was a road out there. So every time something passed by, since it was crossing across that granite, the vibration would move from the road through that granite into the place we was investigating. So things would move from the vibration of a vehicle going by. So we found out that was what was moving everything, was the fact that a vehicle would run by, stuff would move. Well, the noises they were hearing was because it was sitting on this chunk of granite, it would shift. Every time it shifted, the wood makes noise. It would squeak, it would squall, make all kinds of noise, almost like something, stuff like this. People were freaking out, but we was able to explain everything away and prove that there was no ghost in there. Now, when you go into a place that's really haunted, you can feel it. You can feel when you walk in, and your different electronic devices will act different ways depending upon how strong the electrical properties of the ghost is, because everything has electrical properties. And I've experienced some interesting ghosts. I don't like dealing with shadow creatures or
How come?
demons.
How
I
come?
don't know.
Why not shadow creatures?
I don't like shadow creatures because they're evil. Is that the first shadow creature I've ever seen? I was at a friend of mine's house. It was 100-year-old home at the time, and they had kept prisoners in the basement where they had dug out into the rock, and this was all still there in the basement. There was still the jail cells that were cut back into the rock with the wire, with the bars on them, and they still had the chains in there where they chained them up in there. Well, we went down into the basement. He was showing me all this, and we seen, well, first of all, he had a big Rottweiler, 140, 150-pound Rottweiler. And we got to notice, and we got down there, and all of a sudden the dog backed up behind us and was crying. And this dog ain't scared of nothing. But it was backed up and it was whining. We got to looking, and in one of the jail cells in the corner, the shadow, it looked like a person, come out through the bars and went over to the side wall and started moving around back and forth. So we went upstairs. Well, the dog beat us upstairs. I went upstairs, and my friend came behind me, and we no sooner got up there, and we heard something, and we looked back, and this thing comes up through the stairwell into the living room. And it came across, all the way across the wall. It almost like it was stopping, and you could see red eyes, which extremely creeped me out. I've never seen a shadow with eyes. And as it came across the room, it started moving up onto the ceiling. Well, it freaked me out. I don't get freaked out very easy, but it freaked me out enough to leave.
All I'm doing is shaking my head right now. All I'm doing is shaking my head. I mean, have you ever had a situation in the paranormal where there is something a little bit darker there, where you've had to invoke the name of Jesus or God in order to try and get these entities to go away?
I have not. I've been very, very lucky. Most of my interaction with the ghosts and stuff have usually been actually not bad. I actually had a ghost living in my house at one time at one of my old places when my children were little. And I researched it out. When stuff started happening, I started researching the area out. And come to find out exactly where my house was sitting, there was another house there back in the 1800s where a family had died of tuberculosis. There was a mother, a father, 16-year-old daughter, and I think he was a 10-year-old boy. They died right there in the same spot my house was sitting. And when I never seen the mother and father, never. The little boy would mess with you if you were sitting in the house. He'd walk by and stick his face in the window and then disappear, or he'd move across the window, just to mess with you. You could almost hear him laughing. And then the daughter, the 16-year-old girl, she actually seemed to be watching over our house, because I was in the bed one night. My daughter started crying when she was a baby. And I come walking in. I come from my bedroom in there. I had her on the monitor, and she was crying. I opened the door, and you could hear somebody going, shh, 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 shh. And then you could see the blanket moving like somebody was patting it. And my daughter stopped crying. I said, "Thank you, Bertha." Turned around, went back to bed. But she always seemed to watch over my kids. It's like she felt like, they were hers, or she felt like she needed to take care of them. And she was great. She never bothered to hurt anybody or anything. She never bothered to scare anybody. And my daughter would even talk about her friend in there that was talking to her. when she was little.
I don't know if there's anything scarier than watching your child communicate with ghosts.
It really, at that time, after I had done the research on it, I found out, that it was a 16-year-old young lady, which back in the 1800s she would have been considered an adult. But it was the simple fact that she always seemed to watch over my kids. It was just a situation where I didn't have to worry. I never felt like I had to worry about it. So it didn't really bother me that bad then. I mean, if it would have been any type of dangerous situation where I thought that she would have hurt her, I'd have run her butt out of there. I'd have got a hold of me some sage and some Catholic priest and run her butt out of there if I'd have had to.
I remember my daughter when she was, I think, about 7 years old. 6 years old. We moved into a house, and then after our experiences started in our house, she got woken up one night because there was as she put it, an old grandpa in her room. Well, we were only the second owners of the house.
Oh.
And we said, well, what's his name? And she ended up saying that his name sounded like Grandpa, and he was 84 years old. Found out the gentleman who she was looking at in her room, his name was George. He's the one who built the house that we bought off his widow. And he passed away 2 weeks before his 84th birthday.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That was interesting. I mean, when it involves children, it gets a little creepier.
It does.
For a lot of parents, George, and there's probably a lot of parents listening to this show, or maybe their children are grown, but they can look back and say, how many times did you say to your child, oh, that's just your imagination. That's just a nightmare. That's just, you saw something else. Because parents are fearful that they don't have answers.
Yeah, you're right. Well, my son would do something like he would say, when I was an adult, I did this. And you're like, huh? What? And it's almost like he could describe when he was an adult and what he's seen. And it was just really the strangest thing ever. It's almost like he was living he was a past life or something. And I never could explain that one. I still can't.
Do you think that for a lot of these children who have experiences that it is imagination, that it is a lot more than the reality of ghosts or aliens?
Yeah, because I don't think that they're exposed to that kind of stuff to really know what it is. And I do think that their imagination goes, well, I know when I was young, my imagination was crazy. Still is. But back then it was uncontrolled. It was just because I could read something and my mind would just go nuts with it. And I could see one little bitty blip of something. And I still do it today. I can watch one little bit of something and I'll have a whole story worked out in my mind before I get away from it in just a matter of seconds. And I think that kids are so much more open and stuff that there's actually could be ghosts. And they just, tell you what they're hearing, what they're seeing.
Oh, I fully agree. Fully agree. Because, you when you look at the way kids are with everything, they really seem to, be open to the fact. And it starts with the parents as we start to close their imaginations off.
Yep. I was lucky growing up. My parents never once stifled my imagination.
You're lucky. You were
I am
lucky.
very lucky. I have fantastic parents.
I apologize for cutting you off right there, but we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We got George Lunsford for another 30 minutes on Space Down Radio. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. All right, now I can actually mix my iced tea.
I hope I'm giving you a good interview.
Dude, you're doing great. This is awesome. Sorry, I'm going to reverse it now. No, this is a lot of fun, man. Thank you for doing this.
I'm enjoying it. I really am.
Let's get into the Bermuda Triangle next.
Okay.
We haven't touched on that. I'm just going to stand up and open up my window here. Hold on.
Sure, go ahead.
Morning, Pony Pong. Rono how you doing? It's amazing that one little jump up can actually help my sciatic. That's
That's
so much
good.
better. Oh, yeah.
I ain't nothing worse than a pinched nerve in your back. Oh, Lord, it runs that sciatic and runs down your legs. I know what you're going through.
It sucks.
It does. Big time. Do you always have a lot of people commenting and stuff?
Oh, yeah. We got a very active chat room.
That's cool. I love it. If anybody has questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any of them if I can.
Oh, we'll get some questions here.
I know most people think he's kind of weird, but I've just had all this stuff all my life happen. So for me, it's second nature. I don't even think about it anymore. I don't have the deals with the ghosts much anymore, like I used to. It's kind of faded away over time, but I can still hear them every now and then, and I still see them every now and then. They used to pop up in my car as I was driving down the road.
Hi, Raven Haynes or Hayes. How are you? Scrolling to see if I missed anybody. Assault Rifle Omen, welcome to SOR chat on Twitch. Thank you for joining us. Don't know what the hell you're posting, but looks like a bunch of useless stuff. We got about 2.5 minutes, bud. Fab says, weird. Have you seen the chat or the guests? Vegas, Debaruni. Vegas, May 1st to 4th. Both Merle and I will be there. Oh, this has been fun.
I've enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Me too, man. Just over a minute here, my man.
Not a problem.
Excuse me. All right. A big thank you tonight to Richard with a hat trick, Search and Destroy, and Deborah Rooney with a great, great set of super chats tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you for the love. Put your questions, if you have them, in capital letters, please. Greatly appreciate that. Hi, see how we are living? What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't belong here. I see what you did there. Here we go. Here we go in the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're going to get into the Bermuda Triangle next with author George Lunsford. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in, because we love bringing the weird and strange topics to you each and every night. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's author, researcher, George Lunsford. You can find his books on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, on Google. Go check them on out. Add them to your library. We'd appreciate that. George, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell us about the Bermuda Triangle. This has been a mystery we've all heard of, but it seems to go in waves, that there's a bunch of weird things that happen, and then it just dies off for a while.
Well, I can just tell you what I experienced. Now, I had two experiences in the Bermuda Triangle. One time we were just north of Puerto Rico, and we seen something in the water. We couldn't figure out what it was, and when we got closer, we found out it was a tail fin for an aircraft. So we recovered it, and we pulled it on board the ship. And the weird thing was, it wasn't really jagged around the edges like it'd come off of a crash or was ripped off by wind shear or nothing. It was actually pretty smooth all the way around, like it was laser cut. And it was very few barnacles on it at all, like it was set in the water for us to find. So, and it had supposedly been missing for like 7 years. So we found that, and I thought that was kind of strange, because you don't just find stuff like that floating in the water anywhere in the world that I know of. And then the second time we've had any kind of experience, now that was a lot more in depth. I was on aft lookout, and anybody that knows me knows I spend a lot of time on aft lookout. But I was on aft lookout, and the forward lookout called me. He said, "What is this up here?" So I walk over to the side of the ship. I lean over, and I take my binoculars. I'm looking, and all you could see was just a little dot, a gray dot on the horizon, which was about 10 miles away. Now, the water was just as smooth out there. It was just beautiful, very little wind. The sun was bright. It was a perfect day in the ocean. Temperature was perfect. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't cool at all. It was fantastic. Well, as the ship goes closer and closer to this dot, the dot gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we get within about 3 miles of it. And in front of the ship, all you see is this giant gray wall of fog, which, granted, not really unusual in the ocean. Fog pops up. It's not really a big issue. But this one was as high as you could see up, and as far as you could see both ways was this giant wall of fog. And as the ship, we were running probably 15 knots. So as the ship went into the fog, all the electronics either shut down or went crazy. The compasses were spinning around. And I was still on aft lookout, and even the sound powered phones we have went out. As we went in, you got this electrical feeling and on your arms and on your skin. Your hair would all stand up on the back of your neck, on your head. And it was just this charged feeling in the air. And as the ship come out the other side of the fog, everything come back online. The compasses went back to where they're supposed to be. And as I come out, everything was darker. Everything was hazy. The sky was nasty looking. The water had started getting choppy, and it was just a nasty kind of day. And we'd come out of it, and I turned around to look to the ship. When I turned around to look back aft again, there was no fog. It was gone.
That's so weird.
And that don't happen.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that was my two big experiences of Bermuda Triangle. And there's some weird stuff goes on in there. I had a friend who was on another military ship, and somehow they lost 2 hours. They don't know how, but when they come back to port, the clocks on the ship were 2 hours off what they were in port.
Do they know what happened?
They have no idea.
What ship was this?
Because
You froze up on us, George, just as we were getting into that story.
that's weird. Am I back?
You're back now.
Okay. Yeah, he asked me never to tell, so I told him I wouldn't.
Was it just him and his partner, or was it the entire ship?
The entire ship. It was a military ship. It's an FFG.
West Coast or East Coast?
East Coast.
In the Triangle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. Were they told not to speak about it?
Yes.
I want to talk to this guy.
Well, you can't. He's dead.
Well, can we seance him or something?
You can try. I don't know if it worked or not, but he he was really freaked out by it, and he come and told me about it, and he told me never to ever tell his name or the name of the ship or anything. I told him I wouldn't, and it messed him up for a while. It really did. He was questioning a lot of stuff in his life after that.
Did he have any recall whatsoever?
No, he said they went out. All he can remember was they went out. They did some maneuvers. They did the regular stuff they were doing because we had exercise areas in the Bermuda Triangle because we were out of Charleston, South Carolina.
Right.
So, and he just said they did normal stuff, but for some reason, when they come back, everything was off.
That is so weird.
Yeah, it was an odd situation. Matter of fact, this is really the only time I've ever said anything about it. I usually don't ever say anything about it, but it was different. And every person on there on the ship that I knew was on that ship. They were all just I mean, they wouldn't discuss it. They wouldn't look at you in the face. They were scared to death. And I don't know exactly what happened or what they were told, but they didn't nobody. And their captain left shortly after that. So
What happened on your sighting when you were in the Navy and you saw a UFO?
we were moving across the Atlantic Ocean with NATO. Was part of NATO at that time, a NATO cruise. And we were out pretty much by ourselves in an area that was almost dead center of the Atlantic Ocean. And the forward lookout and the port side lookout said, "Hey, there's something over there. See if you can see it better." So I take binoculars. I'm looking at this thing and I see some lights. When I first saw it, I thought it was a con tower for a submarine because where the lights were lined up. And I watched it and I realized it's not touching the water because I didn't see any kind of spray coming off the water. I didn't see any kind of water disturbance underneath of it. It was just lights. And they all got bored watching it, so I kept watching it because it intrigued me. Then it started moving. As the ship was going this way, it was moving like this, back and forth, but it was staying pace with the ship, like it was searching for something. I just watched it and watched it and watched it, and all of a sudden, it was probably, I think, 8 miles away, because the horizon would be 10 and it was just inside the horizon. So I was thinking it's probably around 8 miles. And I'm watching it with the binoculars, and all of a sudden this thing lights up enough to actually show a shadow on the ship from 8 miles away. And all of a sudden it went boom, and it shot straight up in the air. No noise at all. And it was disappeared.
No way.
Yeah, it was one of the weirdest things. What was funny, I've told this story a few times, and people, yeah, right, whatever, whatever you say, man. Well, my wife was with me, and we was coming back from Chicago. We was 30,000 feet in the air. We just announced it from the pilot, and she looked out the window and she seen something, and she elbows me. She goes, "What is that?" And she pointed at it, and out away from the airplane there was a cylinder, a tube like a cigar tube, just as bright silver as it could be. No wings, no tail fin, no sign of propulsion on it, and it was staying with the airplane at 30,000 feet. Perfect. She leaned over to get the phone to get a picture of it, and it went. It was gone.
Man, did you have to report that to the sergeant on deck or anybody on deck?
Nobody said nothing about it. Like, everybody we were all told, you didn't see nothing. There's nothing to report. Get back to work. Back in the 80s, you didn't question. You just did what you were told and you went on back to work. Nope, didn't see nothing. And since I was only, let's see, you had the helmsman seen it, the combat board, the guy at the board that keeps track of all the contacts you make, he writes on this big glass board so the captain can see what's going on, or the person that's in charge can see it. And the signalman, all of them seen the initial lights and they seen the brightness, but that's all they seen. They quit watching it. I was the only one watching it the whole time. And it lasted for 5 minutes.
That's a good sighting. Let's get some audience questions here because we got a few minutes left.
Sure.
Getting back to the Mothman talk in hour one, Kimberly is wondering, could Mothman be a devil or an angel?
It could be. I don't know that it could be the devil, because I think it's more of a, it's trying to warn us so we don't lose much life. So it could be like a guardian angel, I guess. I don't know.
All right, let's go to Hillbilly Herb. Any thoughts on the old hag? I find it interesting that 50% of folks in Newfoundland have hag stories compared to 5% of the regular population. Seems like an old world connection. Maybe Celtic?
Maybe, but I divorced her back a long time ago.
Yeah, mine was close by. I was talking to my daughter, and my former mother-in-law was in the seat beside her while she was driving.
There's lots of stories of old hags throughout history and in different parts of the world. You can find anywhere there's an ocean or shore, there's usually stories of an old hag.
For people who may not know what the old hag is, could you maybe describe it?
Well, there's different ones. There's some that are considered to be like witches or an evil character, or just different things. But if you look at the one out of Charleston, there's a story about she's called the oh Lord, the I went totally brain dead. The Boo Hag, and it's actually a story that come across from West Africa. And what she does, she wears human skin through the day, and at night she peels the skin off and she goes out and search for life force. And if you leave your window open or your door open or cracked, or you don't have indigo blue paint on your door or your windowsill, she comes in your house. And she comes over to your body where you're laying there asleep, and she pulls your life force out little at a time until you're dead or she's full. But you can deter her by using indigo blue on your windowsills or door jambs and doors, or you can put salt down, or if you really want to mess her up, you can put a broom out or a brush. And when she comes into your room to steal your life force, the bristles, she has to count the bristles of the brush. It's a compulsion she can't stop. And if she does, and she doesn't make it back to her skin before daylight, she disintegrates.
Very weird. Very weird.
But there's other types of hags. There's supernatural ones, there's witches, there's just different things, but there's always something to do with a hag on most of your areas around any kind of ocean or a beach area or anything close to a body of water.
Let's go to Grandizer. George, have you ever investigated Flight 91, Canada, and the supernatural events? Are you saying Flight 21 or 91, Grandizer, and the supernatural events that surround the crash site? If so, what did you find?
I have not. I haven't heard but very little of the story, so I really don't know much about it. But it sounds interesting. I'd love to do it. I'd love to investigate that.
I got to find out whether he's talking about Flight 91 or 21. Because Flight 21 up by my area, that place is freaky. Absolutely freaky. All right, let's go to Cake here. Do you think Mothman pursues and indulges in Schadenfreude?
I don't know. I can only be honest with you and tell you, I really don't know.
All right, moving on. Let's go
Sorry.
to political foolishness. What cryptids do you think are real or not real? I'm thinking Bigfoot and Dogman are real, but maybe Wendigo and Mothman are not.
Actually, I think the majority of them are real, because I think there was a whole lot of civilization that was here that's not in our records. And I think a lot of these could be leftovers from our past civilizations. Now, I'm sure that there are some things that are just made up, but I mean, when you look at giants or Bigfoot or Wendigo, there's enough background information on these creatures to go, okay, I think these could be real. I mean, Wendigo is basically a witch doctor who has tasted human flesh and has become a cannibal. And like I said, Dogman, there were tribes of them. And Bigfoot, my personal theory on Bigfoot is that Bigfoot were the giants that were run off by the first Indians when they first come over from Asia. When they come across the land bridge, there's tons and tons of stories where they talk about attacking these giants that were cannibals and killing them off or running them off. And I think the Bigfoot here in America and Canada are those giants, and I think that these are the descendants of them, because according to Miss Ketchum's genetic research, they are a human hybrid.
All right, Grandizer, getting back to him for a second here.
Okay.
He was talking about Flight 21. He's heard us talk about Flight 21 here. So in 1965, about 35 miles from where I am right now, there was a DC-6 plane crash that killed 52 people. And in the, 2018, in the 6 years that I have been going out to that location, I've been chased. Me and my friends have been chased out of the forest twice by Sasquatch. We've had an alien encounter, a landed UFO encounter, paranormal activity, Sasquatch roaring, ghosts from the crash site, EVPs. It is absolutely freaky there.
Wow. There's some kind of major energy going on there.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder, do you know if there's a lot of, now you probably don't think crazy, if there's a lot of crystal or mica or anything like that up there?
Pumice rock, lava rock.
Okay. Well, that lava rock could be why. It could really be why there's so much energy up there.
Yeah, well, this area used to be about 1 million years ago, a lake bed of lava.
Oh, so that's interesting. I love the research to that.
Plus, when you add in the fact that there's a lot of gold and other minerals around here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because gold is one of the best, it causes some of the best connectivity with electricity. That's why they're using a lot of circuit boards and stuff. Yeah, man, you've got so much going on there. It's hard for me to wrap my head around it.
Oh, dude. And you add to the fact that we're located right on the original Gold Rush Trail.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to come up there. I'd like to take a magnetometer and some other equipment up there and check all that out.
Well, doors open, my man.
Well, it's having time. The time is the problem. Time is always the problem. So,
isn't that the case?
Man, I'm telling you. But I would love. Oh man, I'd love to check that out though. I haven't got to experience the aliens and the landing aircraft. That's something I haven't experienced yet either, and I would just love that.
My friend, we're having a good time tonight. I'm just going to hit you up right now. If you want to stay for the third hour, I was going to take some audience questions about the UFO hearings, but if you're feeling wide awake and you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to.
I'll stick around for a little bit longer, yeah, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, let's do it. I got a bunch more audience questions for you.
I'll try my best. I'm not the best at answering, but I'll do everything I can to help them out.
They just love the fact that our guests take the time to take their questions. So I think it's wonderful. And you know what? Let's do it. Let's just continue on. We're on a roll here. George Lunsford. He'll be by in hour 3. as we go to break here at the top of the hour. Hard to believe we're already 2 hours down, 1 to go on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned, everybody. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. All right, George, we are clear. I'm just going to put you in the green room. I'll be right back, okay?
All right.
All right. Be right back, everybody. right. Excuse me. I am back. Let's bring George back in. There he is. Hey, George.
Hello.
How you doing, buddy? I'm having so much fun. Thank you tonight.
I am
Seriously.
too. I'm enjoying it.
Good.
I
Good.
love the questions. These people have some fantastic questions.
Well, let's see if I can find some more here. Latchkey, how you doing? Good to see you. Well, let's see here. What else do we got here? Yeah, I got to start documenting this Flight 21 thing because there's just, it's so weird that it needs more investigation. The problem that I have with it, George, is that it's still an open case.
Really?
And still Canada's largest unsolved mass murder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's
Right,
believed to
Ron?
be intentional.
It's they have 4 suspects, but they all died on the plane, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you can do it. I don't know if it'll ever be solved, right?
Wow. You got the whole trifecta going on there. So, you know,
Yeah,
something's causing all that energy to be packed up and
hugely.
the Bigfoot's
George,
pulled in.
hold on right there, buddy, because
Sorry.
we got to come back here right now. Here comes the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to continue the questions for George Lunsford tonight, because it's always a lot of fun when we hang on out with our guests for that extra hour. So that's what we're going to do. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Dachnomania. Dachnomania is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. George Lunsford, author, researcher. You can find his books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and anywhere online. We highly suggest you do if you like the weird and strange. He's staying for the next little bit here, so we're going to continue on with audience questions. George, thank you so much for staying up late with us.
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
All right, here come the questions, my man. Raven is asking, do you think there are portals in the Bermuda Triangle that cause time and weather issues?
Actually, I think that there very well could be. I haven't seen them personally, or I may have and not know it, because I really wouldn't know what a portal was. And if somebody didn't point it out, I probably wouldn't know what it was if I did see it. So, but I'd say it's completely possible. I mean, there's been weird things happen for a long time, and things have disappeared with no trace. And a portal would explain some of it, just like when the 5 military aircraft that disappeared. It could have been because of a portal.
What do you think is really happening in the Bermuda Triangle? Do you think it's portals? Do you think it's dimensions? Do you think it's the ley lines? Is there aliens screwing that place up? What do you think?
With as rare as it is for something to happen there, and as random as it has been, and the fact that it happens in clusters, I really don't know. Nothing explains it all. Not one thing explains it all. Now, if you combine things together, you'll get an explanation for it. Like you can combine the UFOs and the portals, and that would come up with weather issues. That would come up with things disappearing without a trace. But you're talking about an area where not only our ships and airplanes disappearing, but there's things appearing there that shouldn't be. They found a boat. The boat was in perfectly fine condition. There was nothing wrong with it. No sign of any kind of damage from a storm. No sign of anybody attacking anybody. They just found a boat, and they found no people on the boat. So how do you explain that?
So
And the boat, the funny thing about it is the boat had been missing for like a year or 2 years when they found it, but it looked like it had just left port.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. And still the question of Flight 19.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to those planes? Do you think they're at the bottom of the Atlantic, or do you think they just vanished?
You know, it's possible that they're at the bottom, but you would think as many times as they tracked what they believe the flight path was, they would have found something by now. But there was never any wreckage, never any oil in the water. Even the boat that went out to investigate it disappeared. So something's not right at all. Something's not natural with that, because that shouldn't happen. The boat and the airplanes disappeared with no trace.
Yeah, that's still a weird one for me. I mean, they found other planes that look like Flight 19 in that area
Mm-hmm.
where the planes are supposed to be, but they never ever found the 4 that went down.
No. I mean, it's one of those phenomenon you look at and you go, that don't make sense. Now, on the question from Raven Hayes, that would explain that. The portals would explain why they disappeared, nothing can be found. Aliens would explain why there would be something disappeared, nothing be found. So who knows? You know, we may never find these out, but there's other triangles around the world that are causing the same issue. You got the Bridgewater Triangle, you got the Dragon Triangle, you got the Alaskan Triangle. You've got different ones around the world that the same things are happening. They're just not reported on as much.
What do you think it is with all these triangles?
It's something that there's some kind of energy there. I mean, what I felt with that fog was electromagnetic. That's the only thing that could explain it.
Let's go to another question. Let's go to J Truth Seeker.
Okay.
What is the deer human cryptid with the big antlers called? And have you ever had any sightings of these?
I have not, but that would definitely be one I like to cite. I've heard of 2 or 3 different cryptids like this. Now, one of them was the Wendigo that fit this description. Then there's it's called Deer Man, I think is what it was called. And I think that was up in the North American and Canadian line. It was supposed to be from one of the Indian tales. They're one of their folklore that talked about a human deer hybrid. And there was one more, but it was overseas, and it had antlers and not horns. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I've read so many of these things. I'm getting old. It all runs together in my mind now. So, you know, but no, I've never seen one. I kind of want to see a Wendigo, but I want to see it at a distance because, you know, they're not nice creatures. And the Skinwalker is also another one that has said that can morph into having the antlers.
What do you think of this phenomenon called the knot deer
I seen something about that the other day, but I haven't studied it yet. They look weird from what I've gathered from it. So I don't know. I really don't. I don't know enough about them to talk intelligently about it. So if you know something, I'd be love to hear about it.
No, I don't know a lot about these things, but it just seems very intriguing.
There's some wild stuff out there. Well, a unicorn. There's unicorns out there now. They're called they're goats that have a single horn in their head. And you can actually find pictures of those online. They just have a single horn that grows out of their head instead of two horns. And if you look at the description of the original unicorn, it wasn't this big beautiful horse with a big mane. It looked like a donkey or a sheep with a single horn.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd have to look that up.
Look it up in the Bible.
Let's go to search and destroy. Do you think the Bermuda Triangle is a vortex to another dimension?
Could well be. I mean, that would explain a lot of it, why things disappear when they're never seen again. And I do believe there is a unlimited dimensions out there. And from some of the pictures my wife got during the Aurora Borealis that we got all the way down here in North Carolina, she has one of the pictures she has, it looks like a rip in time, like a vortex. And it was kind of freaky because she got stuff when she took those pictures that now you gotta remember, my wife don't believe in UFOs until she took those pictures. And there's some stuff come out in those pictures that really blew our mind. And I was on a podcast when she took them. So she come running in the house and showing me these pictures while I'm in the middle of a podcast.
Let's go to Polly here. What is the goal of those entities in planet Earth? Are they human evolution or multidimensionals?
What entities? I don't know
Probably,
exactly what.
I would assume ghosts on this one.
Okay. Or is she talking about the lizard people, the reptilians?
Could be.
The reptilians, I believe, are, from what I've read and what I've studied, I believe they are actually a evolution of dinosaur. They evolved into the reptilian humanoids, where we turned into we were people. They went a different route with it. You know what I'm saying? Everything evolves differently, and I believe that what was left of the dinosaurs evolved into the reptilians that are here, that are living underground, like in Dulce and other places. There's a place called Black Mountain out in Vegas, Nevada, close to Vegas, that is said to be an underground base for these things. And they're supposed to be the original inhabitants of Earth. If that's
so
what you're
scary
talking
to
about.
think of. So scary to think of.
Well, yeah, because theoretically, and the stories go that the governments made deals with them so that they would stay underground and not live on the surface, that they could have humans every now and then to eat. But from some of the other stories, Elon Musk even told about it one time, that they were believed to advanced farther than we have technologically, and they're able to change their form and walk among the humans and look like a human.
So strange. So strange.
Yeah.
Let's go to another question here. This time with Kurt. how do you determine if all the energy around your house in the woods is good or evil? My uncle and brother both lived here, but passed away, and it's in the middle of the woods.
Well, I mean, if they were good, normal people and not bad people, it should be good energy. Unless did they die in a traumatic way? Or was it just like old age, or was it natural? Because that's going to determine if they passed away in a traumatic way and they were angry about it, then that will change the energy to not so happy energy. Not necessarily evil, but they could be really pissed off that they got killed. If they died of something natural, it may have left a little bit of energy behind, but the majority of their energy went to heaven or hell, depending upon what kind of person they were. Energy with ghosts is real tricky because everything that happened to them determines on what happens to them. Like when they would pop up in the car after a car wreck, they pop up in my car as I'm driving down the road. A lot of times they just needed clarification and permission to cross over. So, I mean, and plus it's going to depend on a lot of your mineral content around your house. If you've got a lot of crystals, you got a lot of mica or other stuff like that transmits energy or increases the energy, it could change it all too.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Riley. What happened to the DNA research of Melba Ketchum? Haven't heard anything about that research lately.
Actually, I just talked to her today. I just emailed her today and talked to her. She is doing more research into cryptids, and she's done over 100 different DNAs with Bigfoot, and she has determined that Bigfoot is most likely a human hybrid. And now she's doing other cryptids such as Dogman or anything else she can get DNA from. And she's getting ready to come out with some new videos and everything. So she's still very active, and she's a very sweet lady. And if I hear anything, I will let the Jens know. And but right now she's still right dead in the middle of research. She's actually asked me to go out and gather some more DNA from other cryptids. So we're going to be looking into that for her. Great lady.
Richard wants to know, what's your favorite cryptid?
Oh, it's always been Bigfoot. He was the first cryptid I ever heard about. And at first it scared me, but now he's just my favorite.
There is something special about them, and I will agree with you on that. That's my favorite too. Not because it's the most popular, but the one thing that I have learned, and George, I'm not a researcher. I'm an enthusiast. And the one thing that I think is the most fun is when you find an area where they're located. You don't need to go running around the deer trails. You don't need to put a ghillie suit on. You don't need to wear camouflage. You don't need to bring a drum set into the middle of nowhere and act like a fool. All you need to do is have a conversation with some friends around a fire, sit in a lawn chair, and have a laugh.
Oh yeah,
And
they'll come out to you.
and that's it. That's
Yeah.
all you need to do. And their curiosity will get you. Have you ever had a situation where their curiosity brought them right to you?
I've had them come close enough to me that I can hear them talk. And that's a whole different ballgame right there. Because what they call it samurai chatter.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Some kind of ancient language, and they talk really fast. So it's like, and you're like, what was that? And they'll walk beside you in the woods and you won't even realize it. And remind me to tell you the story about the plastic pig.
Oh, let's hear that right now.
Okay. I went up, we had a research area, and I had a big pig about this big. It was a squeaky toy for a dog. And I left it. There was an arch, and there was a tree about 18 inches around. And I left the pig sitting on top of the arch, leaned against the tree, just to see what kind of reaction I would get. Well, we left it, and one of my researchers went back over there. The pig was gone. There was nowhere to be found. And the tree that it was leaning against was broken into 4 pieces.
Really?
And we keep waiting to go up there and hear this thing going walk, 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 where they're playing with it, because we got one of the tennis balls back, but we never got the pig back.
No kidding. You know, we had our second sighting at our spot this year. My UFO guy, Tim, you'll know when I say this. All of a sudden, you'll be in the middle of the forest. Everything is quiet. And you'll hear this thud, thud. Just like that. Like two heavy footsteps in the dirt. Like an elephant going thud, thud.
Uh-huh.
Bears don't do that.
No.
Mountain lions don't do that. Moose don't do that. And when you eliminate the animals and you're in a Sasquatch area, you kind of start to put 2 and 2 together.
Yep.
So I had told them, Tim and his wife, to listen for the thud, thud. And sure enough, it happened. I'm kind of off in the distance, staring up at the stars because I was counting satellites. And all of a sudden, we heard the thud, thud. Tim's wife puts the flashlights up in the trees. And there's a bunch of birch trees, probably about 40, 50 yards from us.
Uh-huh.
And Tim gets a right side profile of this thing. And it starts to walk backwards, but it doesn't walk straight backwards. It walks diagonal into the darkness. Here's the funny part. We went back there because that area was right where I have my Sasquatch gifting site.
Ah.
And the funny part about it is a tree had fallen in that area, and it had fallen at about a 45-degree angle where this thing was standing. So if it had walked backwards straight, it would have fell over this tree. But instead it walked diagonally, so that way it didn't hit the tree. Now, when you see little things like that, that's intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think it blows me away just thinking about the idea that in the middle of darkness, these things must have eyes like an owl.
Oh, yeah. I think so.
Because we're in the middle of nowhere. There's no street lamps. Okay. The only light out there literally was the half moon and our flashlights. That's it.
I love it.
Oh, and our fire. We had a fire going. No, we didn't. Hold on a second. Did we have a fire going? Yes, we were allowed fires. Yes, we had a fire going. It's interesting. Let's quickly, we got 40 seconds before we go to break. Cake in a Cup is asking, how do you feel about humans currently being disproportionately weaker pound for pound against everything else on Earth?
Well, you know, we live in a comfortable world. The more comfortable we get, the weaker our bodies get, supposedly the stronger our minds get. I think that's kind of up for question too, honestly. I mean,
I agree with you on that. I'm going to cut you off there because we do have to go to break here. We got another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Way more questions. We're gonna pull the leash on George so he can't run away, and he has to stay with us till the top of the hour and finish off this show. We're having so much fun. Taking audience questions here in hour 3. Final half hour Spaced Out Radio is next. This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott. All right, we're clear.
Such great questions.
Oh, yeah.
You got a good audience.
They are fantastic and brilliant, too. Honestly. The one thing that we have done about 99.5% successfully is I run the chat room with, I like to say, and I mean this all in jest, I'd love to run the chat room with an iron fist. like if somebody comes into the chat room and starts getting snarky with my guest or snarky, or starts making stupid comments, they get a warning. They say, hey, I'll say, hey man, welcome to SOR chat. We don't talk like that here. If you want to troll, just leave, because I have no problem booting you. Right? I don't block a lot of people, but myself and our chatters who have been here, many of them for years, they know the rules, which is everybody is hammered with bullshit from the time they wake up until the time they tune in this show. And we're giving everybody a 3-hour break.
Yeah.
And, one of the greatest compliments somebody could pay me is by them telling me, and I've had this numerous times over the years, by them telling me how we put them to sleep at night.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And a lot of people would take that as an insult. What? You're not tuning in for 3 hours? But I don't care. It's these are good people in here, and the majority of them are here every night. And then we have people who can get here when they get here, and then you got people who come in once a week, once every couple weeks, once a month when they can. And but I will say this, I have actually started blocking people recently, because in my new statement of life, which is 0 F's to give.
Yeah.
I don't have time for bullshit anymore.
Oh, I understand. I really, truly do.
And so I just don't have time. Like if you're going to come in here and insult my guest who is giving you 2 to 3 hours of their life for free.
Yeah.
They're taking time out of their life to be entertainment for you on topics that you love. Be human and show them the respect.
I agree. I think that's a great motto to have.
Yeah. Otherwise, you get in trouble with me.
That's awesome.
So Raven, say thanks to Nick Ryan for me. Appreciate that.
She had
Hey, there's sweet Robbie G. Hey, Rob, I accidentally, when I was clicking on the links earlier, I actually clicked on Social Dig, and then when I realized that it wasn't you chatting, I turned it off. So if you end up in your archive seeing part of this show, it's because I made an oops. But that's my weekend host, the Social Dig, Mr. Rob G.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. One of the best dudes I've ever met in this field.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. It's always good to hear about good people. It really is. It's getting harder to find the good people too, because there's a lot of trolls out there.
Yeah, I'm just done with them. I'm just done with them.
That's why we started doing ours, recording all our shows, and we got the TV channel now. So what we do is we record our shows, then they can come in our TV channel and watch them.
Right.
We got Channel 12 TV network. We're on Roku and everything. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, we got about 45 seconds here.
all right.
All right, big thank you tonight to Cake ×2, Richard with a hat trick, Deborah Rooney, Search and Destroy, and Shaq Valet for the great super chat. Very much appreciate the love and support, everybody. So thank you very much. Don't forget, sweet Robbie G. Hey, Robbie G, are you back this weekend? Can you let everybody know in the chat room if you're back? Marquise wanted to do his own thing, so that's why we let him go. So, thank you, Cake, for the hat trick. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in as we are taking questions for our great guest tonight, George Lunsford, on everything to do with monsters. Because, you know, monsters are fun. They're just fun. And you need monsters in your life. That's all I'll say. You know, seriously. George, you agree with that?
I agree with that. I agree with that tremendously.
Excellent. Hey, I want to remind everybody that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. We're on every major podcast network as well. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, George Lunsford, let's get right back to audience questions. We'll take it to the top of the hour before we actually unleash you and allow you to go to bed, because I know it's late for you. We're going to start with necessary dialogue here. Do you have any really bad experiences with UFOs?
Actually, no, I haven't. I've had all really good, just sightings. I hadn't had one land in my front yard yet, which I'm hoping that'll happen one of these days.
I've seen 2 landing.
I bet that was awesome.
The first one called me outside. That was April 10th, 2014.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was in my former friends of mine. They used to have this 10-acre farm, and it backed into a forest. On their street, there was only their house, which was 10 acres, and their elderly neighbor's house, which was 6.5 acres. And both properties were horseshoed by forest. It was like a mini ESETI ranch there.
Oh,
so
wow.
much weird stuff happening. And one night, it got weird. It got weird, and I felt like we needed. I'm abbreviating the story because I want to get to more audience questions. But went outside, and it was a low, dense, foggy night.
Yeah.
And said, okay. Literally, I said, okay, you called us outside out of God's peace, love, and light. Can you show us where you are? And from the neighbor's backfield by the forest, it lit up like a Christmas tree on my command.
Oh, wow.
And it did that 3 times.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was... Whew. The first light was this giant, bright white light that I'd never seen before, and it lit up all the trees around. And what a lot of people don't understand is, and George, I'm sure you'll attest to this, when you have an encounter, a close encounter with something that is not supposed to exist, it changes you. It baffles you. You go through all of these emotions. But most of all, your skepticism kicks in because your mind doesn't want to believe it.
Right. Your mind tries to make sense of what you're seeing, and it
Absolutely.
doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when there was this giant tube that was this blue color, this gorgeous blue color, it was like a tube cylinder that was standing vertically. It had this black cloud that was rotating counterclockwise, up halfway down, up, and then all the way down. The white light seemed to be emanating from the bottom of it. And after 3 times that we asked it would turn its lights on, and then after about 30 seconds, turn its lights off. And it did that 3 times on my command from about 150 yards away.
Wow.
I wasn't yelling. It's not like, hey, I was talking to the same volume as I am to you right now.
That's wild. That's amazing. I'm jealous.
Yeah. It was incredible. All right. I see Linda Thompson in our chat room. Hi, lovely Linda Thompson. I love Linda. She is a brainiac when it comes to UFOs and ufology and what's going on politically.
Oh, that's awesome.
I always like to give her a shout out when she's here. Linda, we got to talk this weekend. I got some questions for you, by the way. So she's a former guest on this show as well. Let's go to Blue Cruise. Any giant animals, reptiles, insect, or human encounters?
Just a Bigfoot. The Bigfoot, and I guess you could say the Dogman too. That's really the only 2 I've encountered. I've actually had stories of giants recently in our research area. They were seen by some overlookers, and they seen what looked like a 23-foot tall giant humanoid.
No.
So I'm going back soon, probably in December, to see if I can find any kind of traces, anything of this giant. And I'm hoping again. I'm hoping I can find something to see if it was real or not real.
That's crazy. Where is this?
It's out in a place called Franklin, North Carolina. It's up in it's close to the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina line.
No kidding.
And,
kidding.
They've been reports of giants before, but nothing that close to me.
23 feet tall.
That's what they said. Now, like I said, I don't know. It may have just been the report. I'm not sure is credible till I go check it out. So, something that big is going to leave some kind of mark behind.
No kidding. That's going to leave a lot of footprints. Let's go to Kurt here. Were you ever in almost complete darkness and almost have multi-sets of what I could describe spotlights coming on, focus at you, and then looked away and looked back and they were all gone, like nothing was ever there?
Like orbs?
I would assume orbs.
I had orbs when I was up at Helen's Bridge. And what was weird about those orbs was when they come out, they was a little pin of light. And then all of a sudden they'd pop up marble size. Marble size, then they'd get like a golf ball size. And they never got bigger than a golf ball size except for the one that chased us. And I've had those come out and they'd fly close to your head. They'd circle around you and it'd go over and then move. And they'd move intelligently, even though they shouldn't even exist when you're looking at them. But that's really about the only thing like that I can think of that has ever happened to me.
Have you noticed with orbs that they're always the start of something else coming?
Yes.
Like you sitting there or walking a trail and you see the orbs, and usually afterwards there's always something else that follows it, whether it's a UFO, whether it's wood knocking in the forest or grunting or something?
Now, I haven't had the orbs with Bigfoot like a lot of people have. Mine have just been the one time, and what followed them was a full body apparition. I mean, we seen Helen come down from the bridge and come over not far from us. I'm talking 5 to 10 feet away from me, and stop and look at us.
That's crazy.
We've had some interesting ghost stuff here. My wife and I were sitting here one night, and our Ring camera went off, which we have right here at the front door. And we flipped it on, and something like a human shaped fog, for lack of a better word, come out of the side of the house, stopped in front of the Ring, and what should have been its head actually turned, looked at the Ring, turned back around, and went straight off the end of the porch, and we haven't seen it since.
That is weird. Let's go to political foolishness here. George, why do you think the U.S. government wants to hide the truth?
Well, the only thing I can figure is if they control it, then they control what we believe and what we can see. If they, I think the government wants control, and I think that's what it's all based off of. If they tell you, if they control the fact about Bigfoot, okay, then they control whether or not there's logging. They control whether or not there's things going on, tourism or whatever. So it involves money then. If people believe that there's a Bigfoot there and they know there's a Bigfoot there, then you have to stop your tourism in that area because it's dangerous. You have to stop your logging because you're destroying their habitat. As long as they control it, they control what happens around it. And that's what, to me, I think that's what it's all about.
I agree with you on that. I've said that exact same example as someone who lives in an area where logging is the number one resource here.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize that when they shut down an area because maybe they find an endangered species, that area for, I believe, 5 years is going to be shut down at minimum until they find out how many of this species are around. What are they feeding on? Where's their habitat? Are they migrating during the winter? You know, they do a serious count. They bring in all the scientists to come do this. And it's like a daily inspection of the forest. And if they were to prove Dogman or Bigfoot are in those areas, that's going to end logging in those areas, which is a multi-million-dollar business for these companies.
Yep.
It's going to end hiking, fishing, hunting, camping. Any kind of wilderness tourism is done in that area. And there may be areas where there's campgrounds there, beautiful waterfalls or lakes to swim in, and they're not going to let you in.
That's right. You're exactly right.
You know, and I think that is more the logic than the conspiracy, you know, of cryptids where the government is hiding the bodies and they don't want us to find Bigfoot because they're trying to turn them into super soldiers.
Well, if I'm going to make a super soldier, it's not going to be out of Bigfoot. I want something aggressive and strong. It has claws. I'm going to use Dogman if I can control him. Because if I can't control him, he's no longer an asset.
If you ever get the opportunity to talk to Jody Cook from the North American Dogman Project, he actually, after he was on this show a few years ago, actually took reports of these Anubis type creatures, one in Afghanistan and one in Brazil, of American soldiers who've had to deal with these creatures.
Yep. Are you talking about with the Medusa Project and stuff?
I'm sorry?
You're talking about with the Medusa Project? It's a group of soldiers made just to go in and take care of cryptids.
I've heard of that group. I've heard that they have at times crossed the U.S. Canada border to hunt dogmen in Canada, especially just northeast of Toronto where it gets a little forested. I've heard that, and I've heard like on Lake Superior around Wisconsin that they have been up there and into the peninsula of Michigan.
Yep. Well, we're suspicious right now that they're over here in East Tennessee because we've come across, and some of our researchers, a friend of mine who was a researcher, he's quit the business now, but he's actually was starting to find lizard reptilian prints. And there's a big military research area not far from that position. So there's some funny things going on. And I don't do conspiracy theories very often, but with the people I used to know in the military and everything else, and they were in the deep areas like skunk works and stuff like that, there's a lot more going on than people realize. And it's not really conspiracy if you have a general knowledge of what's going on.
Oh, I fully agree with you. Fully agree with you on that. The late Butch Witkowski. I don't know if you ever had a chance to meet Butch. Oh, he was a staple on this program until he passed a couple of years ago. And if you listen to the end of our show when we sign off on YouTube, I actually have the last audio clip on there, him saying goodnight. You know,
Cool.
just love the man. Long story short, he was doing a bunch of studies on the bipedal canines out of Pennsylvania, and in what he called the lichen loop.
Oh, okay.
And he told one story pretty frequently on this show about how this couple was being chased by a dogman, or not chased, but they had seen a dogman on the trail, and they started walking out, and they were walking fast. The dogman thankfully went the opposite direction, and then they all of a sudden bumped into these unmarked soldiers with machine guns, who said these guys said was, "You need to get out of here. This is not where you want to be right now."
I can believe it.
Let's go to Mike. George, do you have any information about underworld civilizations?
Just what I heard about when I read the memoirs from Mr. Burr when he was down in Antarctica, and he actually flew his aircraft into a cavern and landed and spoke with the people of that civilization that was under the Antarctica. And it was very convincing, his memoirs, when he talked about all that. So do I believe there are? Yeah, I do. I just don't know enough about them to give you any more information than that. I've just read his memoirs, and I've been studying all this other stuff so much I hadn't actually got into the whole underworld civilizations and stuff yet.
One final question for you, as we got about 3 minutes.
Okay.
From Grandizer. George, when you were in the U.S. Navy, was there a sea monster story, old sailor stories that they would swear that they were real? If so, which monsters, assuming that you served a long time at sea?
Well, I only served 4 years. And most of the guys never would talk about anything to do with ghosts or cryptids or anything like that. So no, but I did hear a guy when I was in Jordan talk about a mermaid. And they actually talked about mermaids right there in the Red Sea or whatever it is right there between Jordan and Egypt and Israel. They actually talked about mermaids in there, and that's really about the only kind of sea creature that out of the ordinary that they really talked about. But I'm, I used to be pretty skeptical of a lot of this stuff, but since I've been doing all this research and like my one book I did called Monsters of the World, I have 104 different cryptid creatures in there. And after doing the studies on all those creatures and the 26 encounters that's in that book, I've had a lot more of my eyes opened even farther than what they were before. So yeah, I can that I believe that there probably are others outsiders out there that has good stories.
Maybe we got time for one more here.
Okay.
Maybe. All right, let's go to Kurt. George, do you feel that there's something beneath the surface creating a vacuum and it's a portal to maybe be able to switch and change timelines?
I've never really thought about that. That's a great question. I don't even have an answer for that. That is an interesting concept. I really like that. Wow. You just blew my mind just now. I hope you just know that.
Well, then that's probably a perfect way to end the show with you tonight. George, I want to just say a big thank you for going the distance with us tonight. I know it was unexpected, but sometimes we get to have a little bit of fun that way. And you really did make this show a lot of fun tonight. Thank you for your knowledge and thank you for sharing your time with our audience.
Thank you very much. That's an incredible compliment, and I do appreciate that very much. And I was very honored to be here. And I got to tell you, you got some people there that have some incredible questions I never haven't heard before. Or that last question from Kurt, man, you got me. That's good.
Yeah, they're brilliant. They are very brilliant. Don't forget, everybody, you can find all of George's books on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, all online, as well as on Google. And just Google them. George Lunsford. It's that simple. George Lunsford, author. That works too. George Lunsford, Bigfoot. That one works. And Paranormal and UFOs. It all works. Just go get his books. It's great for your library. George, thank you very much for spending time with us on Spaced Out Radio. We greatly appreciate your time. And this is where we wrap things up as we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Blue Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, George, we are clear, my man.
I appreciate that. That was fun.
That was so much fun, dude. So much fun. Really appreciate that, man.
I appreciate you having me on. I enjoyed it.
We're going to have to do it again.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, we will. All right, my friend. You take care, okay?
You too. Bye-bye.
Good night, George. What a great, great night tonight. that was so much fun. He started off a little slow with his answers in that first hour, but by hour 2, man, he was cruising with good stuff. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I hope you guys did too. So thank you for that. All right. I'm going to shut this down a little bit early because I got to quickly edit and get to bed. I need to work tomorrow, and then I got to go to my son's hockey game right after. Do not forget that Sweet Robbie G will not be back until next weekend. He's moving and building his new studio, and he needs to be able to get everything set up perfectly. So give him a little bit of a break on that. He'll be back next weekend. I will be back on Monday, where my guest will be, let's see here. Who is this? Nancy Yearout about angel communication. Nancy Yearout, angel communication. That's going to be a good one. That's going to be a very, very good one. So make sure you check it on out. Big thank you tonight to Richard with a hat trick, Cake with a hat trick, Shaq, Deborah Rooney, and Search and Destroy for the great super chats. I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to support us. Don't forget to ring that bell. If you're new here, hit subscribe as we continue to try and grow this channel on our social media. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for a great week, guys. Very much love you all. Take care. We'll see you on Monday.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.